Mercury retrograde is upon us. And for some of us, this might instill fear into our being of, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to deal with all these issues. While others may really welcome this into their life because it's a great time to reflect and revisit unfinished business. So, regardless of what your take is, and regardless of if you even believe in Mercury retrograde, in this episode, I'm going to be giving you some great activities and exercises to do for self reflection and how to make Mercury retrograde your friend. So stay tuned. Welcome to Spiritual and Ambitious. I'm your host, Whitney McNeil. I'm a certified medium and spiritual teacher, and I help spiritual and ambitious souls just like you live your life purpose through your career and attract abundance by connecting into your intuition and spirit guides. Let's get spiritual and ambitious. Thanks for listening in. We are going to be diving into Mercury retrograde and all those things, but I did just pull a card to guide our conversation. And the card is from the Messenger of Spirit Oracle deck, and it is the Hawk. Change your perspective, which is really all about what we're doing in this podcast episode today. We are flipping the fear and making Mercury retrograde our friend. So, what is Mercury retrograde? Well, Mercury retrograde is when it appears that the planet moves backwards in the sky. I am not an astrologer, but my hobby is astrology. Now, if you're wanting to follow someone who can get really nitty gritty, I'll link to my friend Leslie Tagorda's website in the show notes. But what I want to talk about today is how does retrograde affect us on a spiritual basis, energetically? So if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you are a highly sensitive person, whether you've really owned that or not. You feel energy in some type of way. Now, I'm one of those people who always will say, I am not going to let Mercury retrograde affect my plans. It has no power over me. And then the universe laughs in my face. And what I've noticed is that I, in particular, no matter what my design is or my astrology, I seem to be affected on the end of Mercury retrograde. So, why are we affected by this? Well, the planets are doing some stuff, right? So, you might be here on Earth thinking, well, how do the planets actually affect me? Well, we could get into all the definitions of astrology and how you were born, and there were certain planets in certain areas of your life and in your chart. But if you look at it from a higher scale, you can just go, you know what? The moon affects the tides on Earth. Planets probably affect us too. And you know what? The moon probably affects us because we're made of mostly water. Okay, but that means the planets are probably having some sort of energy shift for us too. And every time retrograde comes out, my husband has been in IT for years. He always notices when softwares crash and things go down. And he asks me, is it retrograde? And I usually say, yes, it is. So Mercury is the planet of communication. Therefore, when it goes retrograde, we can notice some things that happen a little differently when it comes to all form of communication, whether it's through emails, texting, talking, being on the phone, on our Zoom meetings, just communicating your ideas from your head onto a piece of paper can also feel challenging. It can be really frustrating too, such as dates and times getting crisscrossed, or calling your doctor's office and they no longer have your appointment in their system, travel plans, things like that. So communication in general is what Mercury in general governs. Now, this time, Mercury retrograde is going retrograde in the sign of Virgo. Fun fact, Mercury is the planet already associated with Virgo. So every time Mercury goes retrograde, it can affect Virgos a little bit more. Now, this can also affect Geminis as well. I tend to see so many people who are in my programs being Virgos or having a lot of Virgo placements, probably because I have a lot of Virgo placements and I tend to teach in a detailed way. Well, there's a theory that if you're already a Virgo, sometimes people will say, I'm never affected by Mercury retrograde because I'm a Virgo. And then some people say the exact opposite. I'm always affected by Mercury retrograde because I'm a Virgo. Now, if you were born under a Mercury retrograde phase, there is a theory that you are less affected because you were born that way. So, this is more of a kind of natal way of being, and you're used to this energy already. But because this retrograde is in the sign of Virgo, this should be affecting Virgos no matter what. So, what can be really helpful for you is to look to see where Virgo is in your chart and what that might govern. Now, that might be a little too technical, but you can always look up your chart. I love astro.com. It's a free chart. You can see which house Virgo is in for you. And depending on what house it's in, this can affect you a little bit more. Now, there's also a theory that if you are an entrepreneur and you have had a sustainable, consistent way of doing business or launching a specific program, that you could always launch that program during this time and not be affected because it's not something new that you have to work out all the kinks and the wires and all those things. So it's a theory. I'm just putting it out there, not necessarily recommending it. I'm just letting you know about that. So, when is it happening right now? Well, the official dates are August 23rd, 2023 to September 14th, 2023. There is a pre shadow that we've already been in from August 3rd to the 22nd, and there is a post shadow September 15th through the 30th. So, what does all that mean? Well, the most intense time where we're really experiencing the retrograde time will be the 23rd of August through the 14th of September. Now, pre shadow kind of starts ramping it up. You might have noticed that the communication's a little bit off. It just feels like, oh, I feel like things just aren't flowing as easily. And it starts kind of preparing you. You might even start having dreams of old relationships, old people, or even when you were younger. And it gives you a clue, whatever's going on in that time, as to what you may expect during the official retrograde time. Then, once we get into post shadow, and Mercury is technically direct, the post shadow is like, let's tie up the loose ends. Let's make sure you're implementing all the things that you learned and worked on in retrograde so that you do not fall back into old patterns, that you make sure this is the new you. Post shadow tends to kick my ass. I am not sure why. I think it's the way I'm just designed, but it tends to be worse for me than the actual retrograde period. And if you ever hear out of my mouth, not that big of a deal this time, you just wait until that post shadow and it'll show me how I don't know what I'm talking about. So I've learned my lesson well. Now, this retrograde period is supposed to be a more intense retrograde because it is in Virgo. So, symptoms we can normally experience during retrograde times, like I said, communication and relationships, travel plans, dealing with unfinished business, things cropping up from the past. This can be old ideas, old relationships, basically old lessons you haven't learned, old things that are testing you to see if you've learned them. And it is like revisiting the past, making sure that all those doors are closed. And sometimes it is the stuff that we've been putting off on the back burner for weeks, months, years, whatever it is. And it is coming to the forefront and making us deal with our shit. So, for an example, my house is pretty cluttered right now for a variety of reasons. Now, I always talk about how decluttering is so helpful for manifesting in abundance. which if you join the waitlist for Intuition Abundance Academy, I'll tell you more about that later. But right now, I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, I'm starting to prepare my energy because Mercury retrograde is going to make me clean. And because it's in Virgo, that is going to be ever more so. Virgo deals with things like health, body, your emotional health, organizing, very meticulous, can be really judgy, analytical, and hard on yourself, but likes things neat, organized, can be very stringent on that. So I know that that is going to be a huge push for me to do that. So let me tell you how it could manifest for you in Mercury retrograde. Maybe you have to find this document that you never thought you would ever need, ever again. But all of a sudden, you got to pull out this document, which makes you go through all of the piles of stuff in all of your rooms or through your drawers that aren't organized. And so, therefore, when you're doing this, you are reorganizing all the other stuff just to find this one damn document. That could be an example of how Mercury retrograde can manifest. So I always say it is so much better to look at the wave than let the wave knock you over. So these are some things that you might experience just because it's in the sign of Virgo, such as your health. If you've been putting off that physical routine, if you've been putting off eating healthier, putting off your doctor's appointments, this is a great time to make them, to do the routine. If you have not organized, of course, with the example I just used, you're going to be organizing. Sometimes, too, we are really hard on ourselves, and Virgo is notorious for that. I know because I got a lot of it in my chart. So you might find yourself more judgy, especially to yourself, but also to others. And remember, Mercury governs communication. So you don't want to be too judgy when you're talking to people. That's not going to go well. Also, you might get stuck in your head and analyze everything when you're not giving yourself enough grace sometimes. So now that you know what not to do, we don't want to be too hard on ourselves. We don't want to be too judgy, right? How can we make this work for us? Well, I'm going to tell you about it in just a few minutes, so stay with me. Welcome back. Thanks for hanging in there. We are talking about Mercury retrograde, and now we're getting to the part where let's make Mercury retrograde your friend. So again, I say, let's face the wave and ride it versus ignoring it and just being plowed over by the wave. So one of the things that you can do to make Mercury retrograde your friend is planning ahead for the retrogrades to come. And you might be thinking, well, Whitney, your podcast is happening right as Mercury retrograde's happening. Like I should have been planning a while back. That's okay. You can still make your plans in the retrograde cycle, but it is great to do it before. So, for an example, if you have to launch a course or you have to do things that require a lot of important thinking and communication with people, and it feels really important to you, then you could do that before Mercury retrograde, or you could schedule it after. So, as an entrepreneur, I look at my launches, and we have Intuition Abundance Academy coming up. Technically, I could have launched it in August or September, but I just am feeling like I know how I am in the post shadow phase. And so I'm going to wait until after the post shadow so that we can feel like we're on this even, wonderful playing field. That is my specific choice. Even though I feel like it would have worked okay in September, I just wanted to give it a little bit more time. And I'm just preparing my energy for that. Now, for me, Virgo is in my second house. So that right there is the entrepreneurship house. I don't want to be launching some stuff with that being in my entrepreneur house. I know it's going retrogrades. I'm like, nah, I'm good. No, thank you. I will wait until it passes. So we can start planning things in that way. But we could also start preparing our energy for knowing that we are going to need to go deep and we're going to need to focus inward on ourselves. We are going to prepare ourselves that we're not going to just spout off when somebody pisses us off. We are going to prepare ourselves to be healthier, to be a higher vibrating being, and that we are going to react in accordance with that vibration. We can also prepare our energy to take some time off, plan your weekends in retrograde. Some of mine are going to be decluttering for sure, and revisiting old things you need to finish, like old projects, old ideas. And I can already feel the energy a lot of the time, even before pre shadow starts. I feel that sensitive to the retrograde where it's like, oh, it feels like it's retrograde, but it's not. Huh, I'm going to start preparing. So, really start to revisit old things that you've been putting off for a while. This could be those old doctor appointments, old therapy appointments, having a conversation with someone in your business or a relationship or a friendship, family member that you don't want to. You got to finish it. If you're an entrepreneur and you're thinking, okay, well, you're saying not to create new offers. If you started something before, that's fine. Go ahead and finish that. Even if it's something you haven't done before, if you've started it, you need to finish it. And we're doing a lot of that in my business right now. Decluttering your mind, decluttering your space, and also decluttering things that aren't working for you anymore. So, as an entrepreneur, you might start to say, I'm done with this offer. I no longer want to work with this type of person. Maybe your values have shifted, and also maybe you need to fire some clients, or maybe you don't need to have certain people in your orbit that just don't resonate with. Perhaps in your personal relationships, your friendship has run its course. Or this is a great time to look at subscriptions that you no longer want. Just anything that feels like you are decluttering, it's really important for you to do that. So, a lot of questions are, should I sign my document? Should I buy a house? Listen, for me, if I can sidestep some of the dates, I will, but life happens. Like, if I need a surgery, I'm going to do it. But what I'll do is make sure I've got every single thing looked at 4 times, not even twice, but 4 times, making sure I'm doing all the prep work, talking to the doctor, advocating for myself, communicating and over communicating. And sometimes, as sensitive people, we think, oh, they're going to get annoyed at me. And in my perspective, if it comes to my health, who cares? I'm going to say the things a million zillion times. So, those are things that we have to do. And if you're buying a house, great. If you've already started the process with it beforehand, just make sure you're really looking at all the I's and the T's. Are they crossed? That kind of stuff. Also, seeing this as a time of revisiting and reflection. So, if you're like me who puts things off, it's a great time to finally kick your butt about it and do it. So, I am one of those people that I get my shit done and work. Anything I'm really excited about, I get it done. But all the stuff that I don't want to do or that feels really tedious and time consuming, I tend to put it off, unless I really need to do it and I'm coming up on a date. But you know what I'm talking about when you have to like call the people and go through all the options. Sometimes I just put that stuff off. Well, Virgo is a very, very meticulous sign. And this is a good energy for you right now to get that stuff done. This is perfect for you to really take the time to get nitty gritty, to actually go through the details and double check the details. So even though Mercury retrograde, it's like, hey, make sure the details are really good. Like look at it 4 times, really twice for me, 4 times. I'm going to make sure that it's all there. It's a good time to actually call on Virgo to help you with that, which is really, really nice. So work on clear communication now. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it's this time of the Mercury retrograde or sometime in the future, we're always going to have Mercury retrograde. We have Mercury retrogrades 3 to 4 times a year in different signs. So you're always going to want to look at your chart and see what sign Mercury retrograde is in and what planets you have in there and how it could affect your energy. But even if you don't do all that, it's important to work on communication each and every day, which is why I always say work on communication with your spirit guides each day. Just like you are working on communication with your spouse, friends, family, you've got to be clear. Nobody likes a staticky Zoom connection. Nobody wants a staticky phone connection. I live out in the boonies, and I'm always, if I'm talking on the phone, I'll say, I can't hear you. I'm going through a rough patch. We don't like that. We want to work on our communication now. So the more clear that you can be is helpful. You might even have to write it down. So literally yesterday, my husband and I had one of those moments where we were talking about smoothies. So I'm trying this new diet that is supposed to reverse autoimmune disease. I will let you know how it goes, but we're just starting it. And I was talking to him about the groceries, and I was basically saying, hey, I don't think that we have enough groceries for the next few days. And all he heard was, cool, we have enough groceries for the next few days. And we were totally on different pages and then made different actions and different dinner decisions based on this. It's just so important that we actually communicate. Same thing happened the other day. He ordered this tub for an ice bath so he could take some cold plunges. And we were talking, and I said, I think you told me you wanted to talk to me about ordering it because we were going to figure out where to put it in the house. And he's like, no, I told you I already ordered it. It's here. And I was like, what? So just little things I can tell that really are not a big deal. If I don't start getting the details ironed out on these little things, it's going to lead to bigger things that we need to coordinate our schedules around and stuff like that. So work on clear communication now. Now, I'd also like for you to see Mercury retrograde as a friend, and that this is this loving reminder. This is like a spirit guide for you that says, hey, it's time for you to get your shit together. It is time for you to stop putting off all those dreams, goals, and even the stuff that we don't want to do, but we know we got to do them because it's actually going to help our life. And you got to do them now. So see retrograde as your friend, and also see it as this wonderful friend that's giving you time and space for self growth and for the inner self work and also reflection. So again, you know that if you go to the doctor or get into your health routine, it's going to help you. You know that if you journal every day or meditate, it's going to help you. You know, if you're going to talk to your spirit guides every day, it's going to help you. But sometimes we're resistant to it. I was just talking to someone in my aligned membership, and she was saying, I'm resistant to talking to my guides every day. And I said, I get it. I am not a routine kind of person. And I'm not really a journal kind of person each and every day. It doesn't really work for me. So, what do we do? Well, let's come up with a routine that will work for us. We can talk to our spirit guides daily, but perhaps at a different time each day. You could attach the conversation with your spirit guides to a consistent event that happens each and every part of your day, like brushing your teeth, drinking your coffee, eating lunch, whatever that is. We resist what will help our lives. And sometimes it's because we don't want to be responsible. We don't want to actually have to do it, and we view it as work, even though we know it will better our lives and help us. How do we get past all of that? Mercury retrograde, it'll make you do it. It will. Basically, it's like if you want the answer, then you need to do these intuitive exercises each and every day, or you need to be at least consistent with it. Whether it's daily or not, you need to be consistent. If you are really saying, gosh, I would love for my spouse and I to become closer and better partners, well, then this might manifest in you have to communicate and learn how to communicate better. And there might be some arguments or misunderstandings, but what will happen at the end of it? It will help you understand each other way, way better. Now, I always recommend not to put this stuff off. You don't want it to always happen during retrograde, because the more that you work on your stuff, the easier retrograde will be for you. Just don't put things off. And finally, Mercury retrograde is a great time to revisit your past and who you are at the core of your being. A lot of times, especially today in this world, we don't feel like we remember who we are anymore. We can get really lost when we are looking at all the things that are begging for our attention, people who are wanting us to help, ads on Facebook, and bills that need to be paid, and errands that we need to run. Especially if you're a spiritual entrepreneur, you started your business with a passion and you might feel like now you're just kind of churning it to make the money. And like, I need to pay my bills. This time will help you reconnect back to your own source, to who you are and to why you are here. This time can also be really healing and help you connect to your life purpose. So we have a life purpose quiz coming up. And when it's ready, I will drop the links and tell you all about it in the podcast episode. But stay tuned. This is what we do inside of Intuition Abundance Academy, is to really connecting with your life purpose. And this retrograde time is so helpful for you to help reconnect to why you decided to incarnate on Earth. So think about this as, hey, retrograde, I get to put myself first, and I love it. All right, so that's all I've got for you today. I'll drop some helpful links in the show notes, and I'll be back next week with a brand new episode. But until then, here's to staying spiritual and ambitious. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And if you loved it, would you please share it with a friend? I would also love your review and a reminder to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find me at messengerofspirit.com, and you can take the 4 Intuitive Languages quiz and find show notes there too. If you want to connect on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, you can find me at Messenger of Spirit. I'll meet you right here next week. Here's to staying spiritual and ambitious.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM. Women's voices amplified.